Now I'd like to introduce Edwin Kelley, who comes to us from the Tergar International, which he co-directs down in the Twin Cities. First of all, Edwin first started attending Buddhist meditation retreats back in 1975, and he has practiced meditation in both the Theravada and the Tibetan Buddhist traditions. He has a postgraduate diploma in Buddhist studies from the University of Sunderland in the United Kingdom. And he was the executive director of the Insight Meditation Society in Massachusetts, which is one of America's best-known meditation retreat centers. He has been a longtime student of the well-known Tibetan Buddhist meditation master Mingyur Rinpoche, and he's no stranger to St. John's, as he has had 2 retreats here in summer. This will be your third one, right?
Yes.
They've come for sometimes 1 week. This year it's 1 week during the summer, but you've even been here for 2-week stretches.
In
right?
2010, we spent 5 weeks.
5 weeks here in 2010. Yeah. So it was Jeff Wubbles. Where are you, Jeff? Who put me on to Edwin, because they've become friends from Edwin's summer visits here. And so it's just been a real delight to get to know Edwin today and to introduce him to you. So I'm going to turn it over to Edwin Kelley.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Can everybody hear me? It's a great pleasure to be here, and I must thank John and Dewey for inviting me to come here. Greatly appreciated, and it would not be appropriate to go any further without acknowledging Jeff Wubbles yet again. Jeff and his staff have made myself and all of the people in my organization feel extremely welcome here in the last 2 summers that we've been here for retreat. And we have fallen in love with the St. John's campus. Unfortunately, when I'm here in the role I'm in, I am normally so busy that I don't get to enjoy a lot of the wonderful facilities and the beautiful aspects of this campus. But nonetheless, St. John's holds a very fond place in my heart because of the time that I've spent here the last 2 summers. So just, if you wonder why I talk funny, it's because I was born and grew up in Australia, which is where I did attend my first meditation retreat in 1975. And now I'll give away, you can do the math. I was only 21, and I attended a week-long silent meditation retreat. And it radically changed my life. There's a lot more could be said about that, but I spent quite a bit of time in Asia, in India, Burma. I spent 6 months as a monk in Burma at one point in the early 90s, practicing meditation, and then came to the US in the early 90s at the invitation of the Insight Meditation Society, where I lived for 15 years before moving to the Twin Cities about 3 years ago. And it was while I was there that I met my Tibetan teacher, Mingyur Rinpoche. So, if you've ever had the good fortune to attend a public talk by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, everybody know who His Holiness the Dalai Lama is? Yes? He's kind of like the poster boy for Buddhism, I think, in our contemporary society. Everybody knows he's the face of Buddhism, I think. Although Buddhism is much more than just Tibetan Buddhism, as anybody who has studied it will know. But if you've ever had the good fortune to attend any of his public talks, he will say, everybody wants to be happy. Nobody wants to suffer. Would you agree? Anybody disagree?
I think we want to suffer.
You think we want to suffer?
I know we want to suffer, but of course we hide it from ourselves. It was quite perfectly later in his life that people want to die. But that's it.
Okay.
Try to hear that. So
But if you had a choice, would you choose to suffer?
that is what they call, it depends.
Yes. Obviously, we could go down that path a long way. But the truth is, I think deep down in our hearts, on some level, we really do not want to suffer. And if we had a choice, we would prefer to be happy. We would choose to be happy, and we would choose not to suffer. So let's examine what it means. What do we think happiness means? Now, we could go around the room and ask everybody here, what would make you happy? And I think we would find that it would be different for each and every one of us. You know, particularly the guys would find something different than the gals would find in terms of what would make them happy. It would depend on your age. It would depend on your background. For some people, it's chocolate. Some people, it's beer. Some people, it is a meaningful career. Some people, it might be a fulfilling relationship. We could think of many, many different things for individually, and for everybody who said something, there'd be somebody else who disagreed and would choose or identify something else that would make them happy. So clearly there's not one panacea for our suffering or for our desire to be happy. It's such an individual thing. And yet, the common denominator is that we all want to be happy. And this is a really important thing, particularly from the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism that I am now associated with and practice in. This understanding of our desire to be happy and our desire to be free from suffering is a really integral part of our meditation practice. And I will come back to that a little bit later. But first of all, let's examine how we go about trying to be happy. I've already alluded to the fact that for most, if we were to ask everybody in this room, we would find so many different ways that people would identify what makes them happy. But normally, we seek happiness in what we find pleasurable. Would you agree? If it's pleasing, it makes me happy. And we avoid unhappiness by avoiding what is unpleasant, unpleasurable. So if we don't like it, we don't want it. If we like it, we must have it. Simple? But as I said, for each individual, this will vary. But nonetheless, if I like it, I want it. If I don't like it, I want to avoid it. I would suggest that there's actually a third category, things that we kind of on the fence about. Oh, maybe I like it, maybe I don't like it, I don't really not like it, I don't really like it. I'm kind of indifferent about it. So I would say there's three categories of experience. That which we like, which we find pleasurable, that which we don't like, which we find unpleasurable, and that which is neutral, shall we say, that we're indifferent about. And there we will find boredom, we will find indifference, we will find, I want to get out of here, I want to check out, I want to go off, I want to go and do something that I find stimulating because this really doesn't interest me in any way whatsoever. So what is our habit? Given that these are the three conditions that we most commonly find ourselves in, things are either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. If it's pleasant, we keep coming back. Happiness is in the refrigerator, right? But if somebody's going to call us names or if the idea of studying in the library is antithetical to or makes us feel unhappy, we will avoid going to the library to study. We would rather go and study in the coffee shop because it's much more stimulating in the coffee shop. So what we find we do is that in order to find our happiness, we keep going to what is pleasurable and we keep avoiding what is unpleasant. And so that our search for happiness becomes dependent upon external conditions. They're either favorable, conducive to our happiness, or they're unfavorable and not conducive to our happiness or conducive to our unhappiness or our suffering. But I would suggest or proffer the notion that if our happiness is dependent upon external conditions, You know, the mental state of our girlfriend this morning, or what we had for lunch, or whether I'm going to go out and party big time on Friday night, or whatever it is. If this is what our happiness is dependent upon, or avoiding that jerk that always is nasty to me, if my happiness is dependent on that, then we're never really going to be truly happy, because we're always then compelled to create the right conditions that bring us happiness or avoid the conditions that bring us unhappiness. And what we end up with at an accelerated, when these circumstances are accelerated, we end up with our mind constantly looking for the next fix that's going to be what I want, and or constantly worrying about how can I avoid what it is that I don't like. And this state of mind I would call monkey mind. Anybody here, have any of you ever experienced monkey mind? That persistent little chatter here that keeps telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do, or what to avoid or what not to avoid, or continually nags away at you, that is trying to control where you go, what you do, you know, and it kind of goes on, and you relate to it in one of two ways. You either kind of believe it, yeah, I'm no good, or yeah, what would be really good, what would really make me happy is to buy a new car, or to get a new girlfriend, or get straight A's, or get a good career, or whatever it is. Yeah, you're right, that's what I need, I just got to get it, you know, if I can only just put this thing together and get it all figured out and get it right, I will be happy. Or that same mind that just, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we know we got that term paper that's due in 3 days, and I just haven't got to it, and you wake up and you think, oh my God, you know, or ideas might be coming, and I just got to do it, and it's like, but I really need to sleep. I can never do that term paper. I can't do a good job on that paper if I don't get a good night's sleep. So for God's sake, shut up and get out of my life, you crazy monkey. So we relate to this restless mind in search of happiness and avoidance of unhappiness in a way where we either believe it or we want to shut it up and get rid of it. And I, again, would suggest that if this is the way our life is being lived, that we're never going to be truly happy. And that's where meditation comes in. Meditation is the skillful art in being able to cultivate, train our mind, and tame this crazy monkey, and transform this crazy monkey into a tame elephant. We're using metaphors from the Buddhist tradition here that might not be so applicable, but I can see faces here that suggest that we have quite a gathering of folks whose ethnic origins are from Asia and South and Southeast Asia, so you know what a tame elephant is, and you know what a difference it makes when the elephant is tame. There's a calmness, there's a steadiness, there's an ability to apply in a steadfast manner. Not controlled, but huge potential, but at the command of, often, you know, a little guy that's just sitting up here on his ears, above the elephant's ears. But this little guy has the capacity to harness the energy of this very large and powerful animal and put it to good use. So I would suggest that meditation has the same benefits as the elephant trainer. Meditation can help you get to know the monkey mind, help you to train the monkey mind, help you to put the monkey mind to your use so that it no longer is ruling your life. So the tail is no longer wagging the dog, so to speak. So how would we do that? How can what is meditation and how can meditation be put to use to train the monkey mind? So firstly, I would say we need to give the monkey a job. Because this monkey is pretty smart. He knows what he likes, he knows what he doesn't like, he certainly knows how to get up to mischief, he knows how to be destructive. He's got a lot of creative talent in some way. So we really want to give this monkey a job so that he's no longer idle, restless, and doesn't have the opportunity to make as much mischief as he normally does, or she normally does. So the job we give the monkey is awareness. Awareness, mindfulness. Who has awareness? Let me see us. Anybody here have awareness? Yeah? Yeah? Anybody not have awareness? I see a few heads kind of. So how did you know you didn't have awareness? But you obviously have enough awareness to be aware of the fact that you didn't have awareness in this moment. Yeah? I would suggest that awareness is with us all the time. There is no present moment ever in your past, no present moment that has ever existed, no present moment that exists now, and no present moment that will ever exist in the future, where if you look for it, you would not find awareness. Awareness is innate. And by awareness, I mean cognizance, the capacity to know, gnosis. There are probably many ways you could understand it. I'm not talking about a higher consciousness. I'm not talking about some profound or enlightened state of mind. I am just simply talking about the capacity to know. We have awareness, or normal awareness, with us all the time. We know where the dining room is. We even know how to get up out of our seats, go through this building and find our way to the dining room. We do that because we have awareness. We know we have to go down 2 flights. We know it's just over here. But we may not necessarily know what we're doing while we're doing it. I would suggest that meditation is really just training the mind with the ability to know what is happening in this moment whenever it's happening. Present moment awareness, knowing what I know, a self-reflexive element of the mind. Is that making sense? Is anybody not understanding what I'm talking about? Right now, you can feel your butt sitting on the chair, you can hear my voice, you know what's going on in this room. You can hear the shutter of the camera go, you might be able to see the lights. I just was aware of the wind swirling out in the courtyard there and the trees. In any given moment, we know what is happening. We just have to tune in to what is there. So meditation is the art or the skill whereby we train our mind to show up and be mindful, be aware of whatever it is that we are experiencing in this moment. This awareness can be aware of objects, like I just indicated, but it also can be aware of itself. Awareness, classically in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, awareness is likened to the metaphor of a lamp. In Tibetan Buddhism, they burn a lot of lamps in temples using butter as the oil. They call them butter lamps, surprising. And this little flame, and you'll see in the temples, you'll see hundreds of them, sometimes thousands of them in various places. Particularly in the Buddhist holy sites in India, you go there, there'll be big open spaces, and you can buy 1,000 butter lamps and light them in spring. It's a very common ritual in Tibetan Buddhism to acknowledge or to offer prayers for people who could benefit from your heartfelt good wishes. So awareness is like this butter lamp. It has the capacity to illuminate what's around it, and it also has it's self-illuminating. You don't need to get a flashlight and go over to a candle and see if it's a light. You can see that the candle's a light. It self-illuminates itself. It is self-illuminating. But at the same time, the candle will, depending on how big the room is, will dispel the darkness, or it will illuminate what surrounds it. So our mind, this quality of awareness in our mind, has those two qualities also. It can know what is experienced through our senses and the content of our mind, and it can also know itself. And this self-reflexive or self-knowing quality of awareness is like space. And I don't mean outer space, although somewhat like, but think about the space in this room. Does that pillar obstruct the space in this room? Does that wall defines the space in this room, but space continues beyond that wall. Goes out into the yard, the whole campus, central Minnesota. Space is defined by objects, but not really, because that pillar actually exists in space. It doesn't destroy the space. It doesn't block the space. It doesn't cut the space. And the same with our awareness. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be cut. It cannot be blocked by the presence of experience. So this, because we have awareness, we can experience monkey mind. We know what is happening. But this monkey mind is really on the surface. This awareness is who we truly are. In the tradition that, the lineage that these teachings come from, this awareness is innate. It's part of our basic goodness, or in Tibetan Buddhism, what is called Buddha nature. Our awareness is pure, it's pristine, it's clear, it's unpolluted. It's who we intrinsically are. It cannot be created, it cannot be destroyed. And so this is the quality we employ to pay attention to our monkey mind. This is meditation. So it's nothing that we have to do. It's not like as though we have to create this quality. It's not like as though we have to go about cajoling conditions so that this quality can be present. This quality of knowing, awareness, is with us all the time. The only thing that's missing is our recognition. If the mind has wandered, been distracted, thought about what we're having for dinner, or thinking about, God, this guy is raving on about something stupid or whatever, all we need to do is just remember, and we're back here, knowing what is as it is. This is meditation. Nothing else? Now, there are innumerable techniques from various traditions that go back 22.5 millennium to the time of the Buddha, skillful means all aimed at cultivating this awareness. And the goal is to develop this awareness to a level of stability that we are never distracted. We're never absent from what is right now. So in that sense, it's the truth. It is what we truly are in this moment, and nothing more. And later on this evening after dinner, if you will wish to, are we back in here, I think, John, is it? We are going to do the practice session?
There's going to be a meditation practice session that's going to be in the same practice outside.
So maybe if we have time at the end of this, we'll do a brief little meditation exercise as a teaser, but there'll be a lot more we'll offer after dinner tonight. Yes. So a lot more could be said about the technique of meditation, and hopefully if we have a little bit of time, I will be able to drop in a little bit here in a little while before we finish, because I think we've got another 45 minutes or so. So awareness is part of our basic goodness. It is innate. It's who you're born with it. You don't have to create it. It cannot be destroyed. You are never separate from it. It's just that you've forgotten. You have neglected to recognize it, or you have momentarily drifted from being in touch with it. But every time you remember, it's there. So let's come back to everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to suffer. So think about this desire to be happy. It is also ever present. Similarly, we just don't think about it all the time. But in many ways, it's what's driving us. You know, you scratch the back of your neck. Why? Because something's irritating you. Why do you scratch it? Because you know scratching your neck will eliminate the discomfort of the scratch that's in my neck. It's because you want to be happy. It's because you don't want to suffer. You move your body. You've been sitting here for half an hour listening, and you're a little uncomfortable, so you shift your body in your chair. It's all because you want to be happy. This desire to be happy is ever present, and I would suggest motivates us for most of everything that we do in life. We come to college. It's a big deal. We spend 3 years of our life and a lot of our parents' money, or we go into hock in the process, because we believe that once I get a quality education, I will have a better opportunity to be employed, I will make more money, I will get a better partner in life, I will get a better career, I can follow a passion that I have, a discipline, a pursuit of excellence that will derive great benefit for me, from which I will derive satisfaction because I want to be happy. We go home and see our parents, sometimes out of obligation, but mostly because we want to go and see the ones that we love. We call them up, or if you've fallen in love and your sweetheart's at the other campus, you get together for lunch, and you want to get together for lunch because you know it'll make you happy. That's what makes you get together at lunchtime, this desire to be happy. Love itself is a desire to be happy. And this desire to be happy is the basis of loving kindness. Why? Because we care about ourselves. This is a deeply inground, innate quality to care for our own being. This is the basis of loving kindness. And this is also part of our basic goodness. It is innate. We don't have to create it. It is there. We are born with it. And it's not just human beings that possess this quality. Anybody who has pets will know that their pets also have this quality. All sentient life, even the bugs, the insects, the mosquitoes, or if you've been here on campus when I have, those little caterpillars that eat all the leaves on the trees in the common down near the dormitories there. They all want to be happy. I think most of you guys have probably left campus by the time they come out, but it's been such a prominent part of my experience of being here the last couple of summers. Silk, what are they? I don't know what they are. They're some little moth caterpillar, and there's tens of thousands of them. And it's amazing to relate to them, because you could just walk on them and squash them, but they have the desire to be happy. And so out of this comes this notion of loving kindness. And the flip side of this is our desire to be free from suffering. When you think about our desire to be free from suffering is, I don't want to experience harm. I don't want to have pain in my body. I don't want anybody to inflict pain on myself. I don't want to even have discomfort. I don't want to be mildly irritated. I have very little tolerance for this on the deepest level, or we may develop a great tolerance for it, but it's still a fundamental part of who we are. And just like I suggested that our desire to be happy is the basis for loving kindness, this desire to be free from suffering is the basis for compassion. Now, in this case, it's loving kindness for ourselves and compassion for ourselves. But without these qualities, we would not care about ourselves. You know, some of us may have a roommate who we think doesn't have a lot of caring and compassion for themselves because they don't care about their hygiene or they don't care about something. But we all have this in some quality, to some degree, this desire to be happy. And it manifests differently in different people. So I will suggest that part of our Buddha nature, part of our basic goodness, is awareness, loving kindness, and compassion. But we normally or regularly or frequently don't recognize it. And meditation is learning the skill to recognize our awareness, to recognize our loving kindness, and to recognize our compassion. And where loving kindness and compassion becomes really powerful is when we're able to recognize in others that they too desire to be happy, that they too desire to be free from suffering, so that everyone in this room is just like me in that regard. And everybody else in this room is just like you in that regard. We all desire to be happy. We all desire to be free from suffering. So if you don't want to experience harm, why would I want to inflict harm on you? Or if you really wish to be cared for, to be safe, to be strong, to be healthy, just like I do, this is loving kindness for myself, then why would I not wish to express loving kindness for you? So based on that understanding, we can develop a host of skillful practices that will elicit this loving kindness and compassion for others, to cultivate loving kindness and compassion for others. And I would suggest, to the extent to which you're truly at ease with your own suffering and accepted and understand your own desire to be happy and free from suffering, then you are able to develop a greater capacity to be loving and compassionate for others. But if you haven't come to terms with your own suffering, then it's more likely to interrupt or distort your capacity to be truly compassionate for others. So awareness, loving kindness, compassion are all part of this innate quality that we are born with. We don't have to create it. We just need to find skillful means for getting in touch with it, accepting it or recognizing it, and even cultivating it might be the wrong word. It's really it's all this chatter of the monkey mind, all this distraction, all this erroneous perception about where we will find true happiness and where we will truly avoid suffering that we have to displace with this understanding of who we really are. And as we develop this ability to connect to, drop into our own true nature, our Buddha nature, then we can more easily, this expression of our loving kindness, of our awareness, our understanding, will naturally manifest. It wasn't on the title of this talk, but I will go one step further and say that wisdom, true wisdom, is also a quality of our true nature, our basic goodness. And that if we're really in tune, if we really show up for, we really connect with these qualities that are inherent in our true nature, that we will also find the discerning wisdom to act in a more skillful way, or act in a less skillful way. We will see what causes harm to ourselves. We will see what causes harm to others. And based or armed with that capacity to see those qualities, then we are more likely to skillfully discern what is appropriate action and what is inappropriate action. Or we are more likely to see that perhaps this pattern, this habit, this tendency that has been, part of our behavior since we can't remember, based on what somebody said to us, or our family of origin, or some school teacher that gave us a hard time, or some bully in the classroom, or whatever, we will begin to see that we no longer need to be at the mercy of this habit, at the mercy of this program. We can actually choose to act in a different way based on the signals, the understanding that is inherently present when we develop a stable and calm mind by resting in awareness, when we connect to our desire to be happy, loving kindness, and when we connect to our desire to be free from suffering, compassion. When we are alert, aware, present, loving, and compassionate, wisdom will naturally be there. It's not something we have to go and acquire. Now, that doesn't mean to say that in a great institution like this, that learning, I'm not saying that learning is inappropriate or not necessary. Obviously, learning, and learning not just what we learn in books in the classroom here, but learning in life's experiences is critical to our understanding. But deep within our own heart and mind already exists these qualities that will bring us true happiness, that will bring us to a true understanding of who we are. All that is necessary is for us to develop the skill to recognize it. So let's put down our pen and papers, and just a couple of minutes now, we'll do a little meditation exercise, just a little teaser for what meditation is. So one of the first things of meditation that's really helpful is to sit with the spine straight, to the best of your ability. If you have some physical condition that doesn't allow your spine to be perfectly straight, that's okay. And the reason is that there's a way in which the calm qualities of the mind are able to more easily manifest if our physical posture is straight. It's a lot easier to study if we take care of our posture, you know that, than be slouched in an awkward position. So the spine straight, and you can do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed. It's really up to you. If you find that your mind is really racing and you're distracted, I would suggest you close your eyes. But if you're comfortable leaving your eyes open, you're most welcome to. So the second most important, feet not crossed, but feet, both the soles of your feet just flat on the floor. And nearly like as though you could imagine your shoulders and your hips and your knees and your feet kind of in parallel lines together. And so we've just, in a way, we've brought our mind now attention to the body, to the posture. But we want to relax. And we relax our body physically, just letting go of whatever tension we may have brought to this. And so we're bringing our mind and our body together. And we know what is happening in our mind and body in this moment. And of course we'll hear things and our mind will think of things, and we're unable to be just mindfully present like this for more than maybe a second or two at the beginning. That's natural. That's okay. Don't worry about that. So here is awareness. It's present, and it never leaves us. And awareness can be the pain in our knee, the sound of the wind. It can be be as big as this room, can even be expanded outside the room beyond. We know we're in the state of Minnesota. We know we're in the United States of America. We know that we're on planet Earth. We know that we're somewhere out there in the backwoods of the Milky Way. And yet we can just be aware of that. And if the mind is wandering incessantly, we could begin by just bringing our attention to our breath. Sensations of our body as we breathe. Maybe we can feel our chest as it expands and contracts, or our belly as it rises and falls. We can hear the wind. We can hear the church bells. We just simply know what is as it is. And we don't block our experience. And yet at the same time, we're not following after any particular experience. Things just are. And we just know them as they are. Thank you. How are we doing? Interesting? Yeah? Yes, so the AV folks say in order for they want to record, this is being recorded, so you are requested if you have so the floor is open for questions. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, but we ask that you wait till the mic gets there so that what you have to say can be captured on the recording. Any questions? Yep.
Hello. Okay. Thanks for the talk, and I just wanted to ask you some questions before I pass the mic around. I've been meditating for about a year now, and I just want to ask you, maybe I'm just jumping the gun here and I'm expecting more than I can actually do, but could you explain the phenomenon of jhana or meditative absorption?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, it's a great question. For the purposes of this talk and this experience, I think I'll choose not to answer it in depth, but I'd be very happy to meet with you personally and talk about it if you wish. Our friend is talking about mental states of absorption that are very common, jhana in Pali or dhyana in Sanskrit, that you will find in all the Buddhist traditions. The practice that I'm talking about is more the practice of vipassana or insight meditation, and doesn't rely or may not necessarily rely on jhana practice. So I think I'll leave it at that if you don't mind, but I'd be happy to talk to you. One of the things, I just realized one of the things I didn't get to mention, I know there's a number of people some people who might be here who are doing a class based on Rick Hanson's book, The Buddha's Brain, I think it's called. I've put a number of books on the table over here that you're welcome to just have a look at before you leave. But it's worth mentioning that there is a growing body of study that is being conducted on the physiological, emotional, and psychological benefits of meditation. There are a number of leading institutions in the Western Hemisphere and in the East who are dedicating significant resources to studies of meditators and the benefits of meditation. People like myself have been last weekend, Sunday and Monday of last week, I was in Madison at the University of Wisconsin, where there's the Weissman Laboratory brain imaging, where they have what is called an fMRI, which is slightly different to an MRI, where now the fourth time I've been down there and spent significant amount of time in this crazy machine while I'm trying to meditate and being subject to painful stimulus to see what goes on in my brain. These studies are happening so there's a lot of new studies that are dealing with the benefits of compassion. Most of the studies to date have been dealing with the benefits of practicing awareness or mindfulness. Dr. Richard Davidson, who's the director of the Center for Investigating Healthy Minds and the Weissman Laboratory at the University of Wisconsin, I believe he just told me the other day he wants to come here to St. John's for our week-long retreat that we're offering here in June. He's one of the leading researchers in this area. I asked him when I had lunch with him last Monday, I told him I was coming here to give this talk, and I said, if I were to say one or two things, what should I say? And he said that the most important discovery of neuroscience in the last decade or so is this notion of neural plasticity. Is that something you're familiar with? So as of 10 or 15 years ago, medicine or biology, this practice of science, contemporary science, believed that when you reached about the age, when you finished college, that all your neural wiring was set in place and you couldn't change it. You lived with those neural patterns and it was just, it was all downhill from then. And you basically lost it the older you got and you wound up in your grave and that was it. They now know that your brain, your neural capacities are infinitely plastic and you can retrain your brain no matter what the circumstances are. And the evidence is growing that suggests that meditation has immense benefits for helping you to reprogram your brain. So if you have persistent behavioral patterns that are destructive, meditation is a great way to work with that. They have proved that meditation has great benefits for chronically depressed people, or is a great support for helping with people with chronic depression. It enhances the immune system. So Richie basically said, make sure you emphasize this notion of neural plasticity. It's the new field. And a lot, like the National Institute of Health has directed huge amounts of funding into these studies. It's happening in Stanford, it's happening in Emory, it's happening in many, many colleges and universities. It's happening in Switzerland and Holland, and it's happening in Australia. It's happening, a lot of research is being done. And they're doing it on people who have only just done 8 weeks training in meditation, and they're already being able to quantify measurable benefits. Yes? Wait for Mike, please.
Here's what I understand about your use of compassion.
Yes.
I see a compassion is an entity that has to be expressed. It can't be compassion in an idle state. Now, for me, a compassion is outward. A compassionate person is one who expresses a compassion to something else. Say something about how I should be a compassionate inwardly. Oh, for me.
Right. Well, I'm sure we all have patterns, programs of our mind that would seek to undermine our sense of well-being, our sense of self-worth. It's a chronic condition, lack of self-worth. We hear so much about teenage suicides. There's a chronic, nearly pandemic of self-loathing that's in our culture, because the cultural icons that were, the Brad Pitts and Angelina Jolies and all these people that we're meant to look like, us average Joes can never get to be, we can't live up to this. And what society is telling us we should be, we're never going to be. And so that can lead to a situation where we lose our self-esteem. I mean, there's so much in the media now about bullying and family of origin and classroom conditioning and so on and so forth that leads to people believing that they're no good, they're not good enough. So, and I think to some extent we all have this to a greater or lesser degree. The compassion for oneself is to begin by cultivating loving kindness and compassion for oneself, to wish for oneself this well-being, to wish for oneself that one be free from suffering. So to the extent that we can develop that understanding in our own being, then we develop the capacity by creating an empathetic bridge with others, by recognizing that you, just like me, we're no different, we want to be happy. I want to be happy, you want to be happy. I want to be free from suffering, you want to be free from suffering. Even if this is a perpetrator of harm towards you, you can begin to be able to develop this empathetic bridge, even though your behavior might be, horrendous or whatever it is in terms of what harm it's causing to me. If I can develop loving kindness and compassion for you, it may not change your behavior, but it will change the way I respond to you. And in doing so, it creates the space for the whole dynamic to change in a way. And this is true not just between individuals, it's between cultures. It would be true at nobody, if everybody practiced loving and kindness and compassion, there would be no atom bombs on this planet. Because nobody would want one. Yeah. So that's the way loving kindness and compassion works for others. Yes?
Hi, I've been enjoying your talk. I started trying to meditate not long after you did, and not in the Buddhist tradition, but still everything that you're talking about makes sense to me. And I also teach meditation, and I often tell students meditation is both easy and hard because the techniques are extremely easy, but it's very difficult
Yes.
to develop a consistent practice.
Yes.
So what are your suggestions for
Yes.
Great
consistent practice?
Short times, many times. So one, set the intention. Every morning when you get out of bed or when you go to the cushion, set the intention. I will practice to be, for the benefit of all beings, to be as mindful and as awake and present and loving and as kind as compassionate as I can. But not only, I won't just do it formal practice, like, whether I set up my shrine or altar and put some candles and burn some incense and say a few prayers. It won't be just formal. This will be something that I will do anywhere, anytime. Short times, many times. The problem is that the habit to be distracted is so deeply inground that it takes a lot of resources to overcome that, the momentum of the propensity to be distracted, to be lost in. And we'll hear a pretty song, we'll see a pretty girl, we'll, whatever, and whoo, we're gone. It happens all the time. So what we're cultivating is this staying present with who I am in the moment as I am. And that takes skill. And you will need to come back and come back and come back. But don't beat yourself up about it. Don't go, oh, you stupid idiot. When you do have a moment of recognition, Be grateful. Oh, wow, great. I just woke up in this moment. I'm just here. I'm present. This is great. We have a tendency to sort of say, oh, you stupid idiot, you're supposed to be meditating, but you've just been lost for 15 minutes. Wouldn't it be far better to say, wow, great, I just had a moment of mindfulness. Isn't that great? So it's an attitudinal shift on some level.
Before welcoming one more question and bringing this to an end, I want to thank you so much, Edwin Kelley, for your enlightening presentation and for coming back to St. John's, and we look forward to seeing you here again. Thank you on behalf of the Buddhist Meditation Club and the J. Phillips Center, which are going to sponsor another Buddhist-related event by this trip on the 14th of April. So any of you who would like to do that, go to a Cambodian Buddhist monastery in the Twin Cities, please do sign up over here with 2. Thanks again, and now one more question. Anyone? Jeff Wobbles?
Jeff Wobble.
Plenty of questions. One of the things that intrigues me is the idea of silence as it relates to meditation. But talk about, Edwin, if you can, in the popular cultural norm, is meditation is a way to improve performance, athletic performance, musical performance, whatever avenue you might have. But people that are using meditation to sort of enhance something that they're doing.
One of the members of the board of the Insight Meditation Society, where I was the executive director in the central Massachusetts until coming to the Twin Cities 3 years ago, is a gentleman named George Mumford, who was a sports coach and worked with Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and the whole crew. And what he was teaching these guys was to be mindfully present. He was teaching them meditation. So, I mean, but there's a way in which I think you can use it for material gain when I think you're going outside the realm of what I understand Buddhism to be. Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, is really based on this aspiration to do these practices for the benefit of all beings. It's not just about my benefit. And there's some way in which once we go beyond the limitations of self and we employ these skillful trainings for the benefit, in an altruistic motivation, that the benefits to ourselves and others become magnified in ways that we wouldn't even begin to understand. So there is beginning now to be a number of studies that are looking at how meditation might enhance productivity in the workplace. There's quite a bit of evidence about how it can be helpful for professional athletes. But it's really all based on this capacity to be present in the moment with our experience. That is the crux of this training. And to the extent to which we are indulged in that which allures us and that which repulses us, and I'm using those two extremes in some sort of way, or any kind of variation on those two extremes, then we're not present. And while we're engaged in these distractions or caught up in the greed or the fear, the hope or the fear or whatever, we're not free to be completely responsive, and I mean infinitely responsive, to what is happening in the present moment. And so this practice equips us with this capacity to be skillfully responsive to whatever circumstances present for us in the moment. That's where the potential for this practice is most apparent from my understanding. I don't know whether I really answered your question, but... Yes. Yes. Well, Phil Jackson has a very strong Buddhist practice background from Zen Buddhism. So we're out of time?
We're out of time. Thanks again. Thanks to all of you, too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Really appreciate that.